The fluorescent lights flickered as Mia counted the last bills in her drawer. 10:47 p.m. The store had officially closed 17 minutes ago, but closing never meant leaving on time. It meant wiping counters sticky with soda, restocking shelves half-heartedly torn apart by customers in a rush, and breathing through the quiet that followed a long day of forced smiles. Her feet ached inside cheap black flats. She rolled her shoulders, trying to ease the tension. The glass doors at the front reflected her small figure under harsh white light. Outside, the parking lot stretched wide and mostly empty, except for 3 motorcycles parked near the far curb. Their chrome glinted under the street lamp. They had come in just before closing. 6 men in leather jackets with patches stitched across their backs. They were loud but not rude. They bought coffee and sandwiches, laughed among themselves, and took their time. Mia had felt nervous at first. People always stared at them differently. But one of them, a tall man with silver in his beard, had smiled kindly and said, "Don't worry, we'll be out of your hair soon." They had moved to the small seating area in the corner, still talking in low voices. Mia locked the cash register and stepped out from behind the counter. Her co-worker had called in sick, so she was alone tonight. Alone, except for the bikers. The bell above the door suddenly jingled. Her heart jumped. She looked up sharply. She was sure she had locked it. 3 young men slipped inside before the door fully shut behind them. They smelled of cheap cologne and something sharper like trouble. One of them kicked the door closed with his heel. "We're closed," Mia said quickly, forcing steadiness into her voice. "Sorry, you'll have to come back tomorrow." The tallest of the 3 smirked. "We won't take long." They spread out casually, blocking her view of the exit. One leaned against a shelf. Another shoved his hands into his hoodie pocket. The third walked slowly toward the counter, eyes traveling over her face in a way that made her skin crawl. "I said we're closed," she repeated, her voice thinner now. The one at the counter leaned closer. "Relax, we just need some assistance." Her pulse hammered in her ears. She glanced toward the corner where the bikers sat. They were still there, backs turned, heads bent together as if deep in conversation. She couldn't tell if they had noticed. "You should leave," she said, stepping back. The tallest one laughed. "Or what?" He reached across the counter, fingers brushing her wrist. The touch felt like a spark of ice. She jerked away. "Don't touch me." "Feisty," another muttered. Mia rose hot and choking. She thought of her mother waiting at home, of the rent due next week, of how fragile safety felt in moments like this. Her throat tightened. Behind her, a chair scraped softly against the floor. The sound was almost gentle, but it sliced through the tension like a blade. One of the bikers stood up. The tall man with the silver beard. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He simply walked forward, heavy boots echoing against the tiles. "You boys didn't read the sign?" he asked calmly. The 3 men stiffened but didn't move. The tallest scoffed. "Mind your business, old man." The biker's eyes were steady, unreadable. "It became my business when you ignored the lady." Another chair scraped, then another. Mia's breath caught as the rest of the bikers rose slowly from their seats. 6 of them now stood between the thugs and the door, broad shoulders filling the space. For a moment, no one spoke. The air felt charged, thick enough to taste. "You think you scare us?" one of the thugs muttered, though his voice wavered slightly. The silver-bearded man stepped closer, not aggressively, just enough that his presence pressed into the space. "No," he said quietly. "We think you're making a mistake." Mia's hands trembled behind the counter. She had never felt so small, yet suddenly she wasn't alone. The tallest thug glanced at his friends. The confidence in his posture had begun to crack. "Let's go," he muttered under his breath. "Yeah," another agreed quickly. They backed toward the door, trying to salvage dignity. One shot Mia a final glare, but it lacked the earlier bite. The door opened. The cold night air rushed in. Then they were gone. Silence settled over the store, heavy and trembling. Mia realized she was shaking. The silver-bearded biker turned toward her. "You all right, kid?" She nodded too quickly. "I'm fine. I'm okay." Her voice betrayed her, breaking on the last word. He approached slowly, careful not to crowd her. Up close, she could see the lines on his face, the softness in his eyes that contradicted the toughness of his jacket. "Take a breath," he said gently. She inhaled, shaky at first, then deeper. The fluorescent lights hummed above them. One of the other bikers quietly locked the door properly this time. "I thought—" she swallowed. "I thought you didn't notice." The man gave a faint smile. "We noticed." Another biker, younger, spoke from behind him. "We've got daughters too." Something inside her cracked then, not from fear but from relief. Tears welled up before she could stop them. "I was so scared," she whispered. The silver-bearded man nodded. "That's normal. But you stood your ground." She wiped her cheeks, embarrassed. "I didn't feel brave." "Bravery doesn't feel brave," he replied. "It feels like shaking and doing it anyway." His words settled deep inside her. They waited while she finished closing. None of them rushed her. One fixed the crooked shelf the thug had leaned on. Another gathered stray candy wrappers from a table. When she turned off the lights, they walked her to her car without being asked. The parking lot felt different now, less threatening. Before she got in, she looked at them. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadier now. "I don't even know your names." The silver-bearded man extended his hand. "Daniel!" She shook it, surprised by the warmth of his grip. "Mia." "Well, Mia," he said, stepping back, "no one should ever make you feel small in your own space." As she drove home, the events replayed in her mind. The fear, the scrape of the chair, the steady footsteps behind her. She realized something had shifted. For years, she had believed strength looked loud and aggressive. She had believed safety came from cameras and locks and luck. But tonight, strength had looked like quiet men who chose to stand up. Safety had come from strangers who refused to look away. The next evening, when she stepped behind the counter again, she felt different. The store was the same. The lights still flickered. The shelves still needed restocking. But her spine felt straighter. Near closing time, the bell jingled once more. Her heart skipped before she could stop it. But it was Daniel, alone this time, holding a small bouquet of grocery store flowers. "Just checking in," he said with a grin, "and making sure you know you're not alone." She smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. In that ordinary store, under buzzing lights and between shelves of snacks and soda, Mia understood something powerful. Sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they wear leather jackets and heavy boots. And sometimes, when the world tries to make you feel powerless, it only takes a few people willing to stand up, quietly, to remind you that you are stronger than you ever knew.